I received a message on September 11th and said, "There's a false peace in the world, my dearest daughter." Then I was shown one soldier after another, many, many soldiers. Every single soldier was Oriental. They looked like they had a steel or metal helmet on, and they had things strapped over their shoulders. The look on their face caused terror within me. All I can say, the word that comes out so clear, is they looked like they had no mercy within them. The words that I received, along with many visions. China is a real enemy.
La China es realmente un enemigo.
From China will come a great war. Do not trust China. Do not trust China. Do not trust China. I have heard there's a deadly trio.
Yo he escuchado que hay un trío mortal.
The countries that I heard within my heart was China, Russia, and Korea. What I saw was an Oriental woman appeared in my room life-size, and she cried, cried, and cried. It was later that week when I was driving in a car. I heard within my heart the Chinese woman was crying because her family was going off to war. There was another vision in which I saw many military troops on U.S. soil.
Muchos tropas militares en nuestras tierras.
I saw the shoreline.
Vi la línea de la playa, de la costa.
They were Oriental soldiers.
Eran soldados orientales.
And there were many. I think it's so important now that we respond to Our Lady's invitation of love and peace, and to come back to God now.
I recall several years ago Our Lady said, "Do not disregard Russia." The messages concerning China were well before anything has come to light about China, or the testing, China successfully testing the atomic bomb. Those things had not come to light when I received the messages. So when I received them, I didn't know what they meant. You know, God speaks to us in varied ways, and I don't claim to have a meaning for these apparitions, particularly this one. But I just wonder if God wasn't using symbols to represent nations and places. But that's something everyone will have to discern and pray about in their own hearts. What I was shown was an Oriental man. The Oriental man appeared to my left, to my right. The Oriental man had eyes that seemed to be void of God. You know, where you don't experience any love or peace, or an emptiness, a void, or coldness. Really, it terrified me to see this man's eyes. To the right of this, to the left of this Oriental man, appeared a polar bear. It was a white bear. It was the most unusual vision. To see a bear, and the bear was a fairly good size, and the Oriental man seemed to be conversing with the bear. The bear seemed to be very passive, not, I just was listening. But then the bear just vanished. The polar bear just vanished. In its place appeared an Indian. The only Indian I knew, I felt it was an American Indian, because the only Indians I was familiar with, the way he was dressed, was American Indian. And he had a little small tomahawk in his hand. And the Indian struck me as being full of pride, of might, of power, of self-assurance. I noticed an exchange taking place between the Oriental man and the polar bear, the Indian. And for some time there was an exchange, and there seemed to be, from the facial expressions, tension building, and the encounter became less friendly. Then I saw them fight. They clearly were fighting for the tomahawk, and they each had their hand on it, and they were fighting for it. And the American Indian was fighting with all his might. Finally, the American Indian got hold of the tomahawk and struck the Oriental man above the bridge of his nose, in the forehead. It looked like a mighty blow. We couldn't hear sound. Well, you know what? The Oriental man didn't even flinch. He didn't move, as if nothing touched him. I was totally shocked at seeing this. Then, moments later, the American Indian struck a second time. This time was above the ear, on the head of the Oriental man. Again, the same reaction, no reaction, as if it didn't even occur. And it clearly looked like a big gash to us. The Oriental man regained his hand on the tomahawk, and clearly both were fighting for this tomahawk with all the might. And still, throughout this, the American Indian looked so self-assured, so full of pride, as if the Indian had all the power and might. And I thought, you don't know who you're fighting. I don't understand. The Oriental looks much more in control, much more powerful than you. But as if the Indian was totally unaware of that. As they continued to fight, I watched the Indian grow weaker and weaker. Still, he went down fighting. He went down, all the way down, and he didn't come back up. And then moments after that, we were shown a mushroom cloud. It was the biggest mushroom cloud I've ever seen. And then to the right, on the upper part of the mushroom cloud, there was a face. The face and neck could only be seen. The mouth of the woman or person was wide open, like she was screaming in utmost pain. And you couldn't hear sound, but all the facial expressions looked like she was in excruciating pain and perhaps shock and just tormented. Then right after that, it was like God had put me in a barren land. I don't know where it was. It could be a place where I've seen geography. It looked like parts of Alaska, perhaps, or there was not any vegetation, or very little, and way off in the distance were mountains. I could hear a mighty voice say, as if it was coming from within me, with the external vision, "Two of you have been given a tremendous grace from God to see into the future through the eyes of God. Now you have the responsibility to pray as you've never prayed before." God is inviting us to change the way we are living, change our priorities. They're not right. We're not balanced. No human being is balanced if we're living more in the world than for God. We've got to be a balanced person. No one can claim to be balanced if there's no time for prayer. If you look at your life, you have time for recreation, time for work, then God's got to be in there. Time for God. None of us, as we are breathing and living today, know how long we will live. We do not know when we will be called back to the Creator. It is not a statement of fear. It's a statement really of great joy, to be with the resurrected Jesus, to be with Him forever in paradise. That should be our primary goal. So I don't look at even natural disasters that may be coming with all these hurricanes that seem to be developing, and one storm after another. Perhaps these can be interpreted or looked at in our own lives as messages from God. You know, that He would even permit these things to happen. Maybe He's inviting us again through nature. Change, my children. Change. Come back to me.